some people can't help but bite more than they can chew. Luke Belmar is one of them. He was winning, then the sudden big movement, the one video that changed his course forever. We'll talk about that in detail later in the video, but Luke Belmar shot up the ranks of internet entrepreneurs by branding himself as a master of wealth creation. According to him, he had cracked the code to financial success, making millions while others wasted time on distractions. But just as quickly as he rose, the internet flipped the script. What went wrong? How did he go from a self-proclaimed digital mastermind to the internet's blacklist? Let's get down to it. Born in Argentina in 1996, Belmar moved to the United States at 16, worked various low-paying jobs to survive. Then came his golden ticket: digital marketing. He became an expert in Facebook ads, helping brands scale their businesses and launching his own dropshipping stores. The revenue was staggering. But he wasn't just an e-commerce guy. He saw another gold rush approaching: crypto. He invested early in Bitcoin and Ethereum, riding the wave of the 2020 bull run. His portfolio exploded, and suddenly, Belmar was living the high life, flashing wealth, traveling the world, and branding himself as an ultra-successful entrepreneur. With success in e-commerce and crypto, Belmar decided to share his secrets, or at least sell access to them. He founded the Capital Club, an exclusive network where members could learn the true secrets of wealth building. Membership wasn't cheap, but for those who got in, the promise was life-changing financial knowledge and a powerful network of entrepreneurs. At first, Luke Belmar seemed untouchable. He had the receipts. From grinding at minimum wage jobs to amassing wealth through digital businesses, his story was intoxicating. He wasn't just another entrepreneur. He was proof that the system could be hacked. But if you look closely, really closely, there was always something unsettling about him. There's a certain kind of man who doesn't just sell success. He needs it. The way a drowning man needs air. The kind of man who sees the world not as a collection of people, but as a battlefield. And in a battlefield, there are only two kinds of people: winners and losers. Luke Belmar was determined he wasn't going to be a loser, no matter the cost. You've seen these types before. Expressionless, pale, eyes that look past you as if they're scanning the entire stock market while you speak. The Sam Altman stare, the Mark Zuckerberg detachment. It's the look of a man who doesn't waste time on emotion, only efficiency and ruthlessness. Belmar fit the mold perfectly. This wasn't some charismatic guru hyping you up with loud speeches and motivational nonsense. No, this was a man who spoke in calculated, measured tones. He made you lean in, not because he was entertaining, but because you felt like he knew something you didn't. And for a while, it worked. People wanted to believe. They needed to believe. But what happens when a man like this gets access to the most disrupted financial tool of the modern era? That's when things get interesting. Every great empire needs a foundation. For Luke Belmar, that foundation was Bitcoin. Back in the early 2010s, Bitcoin wasn't just another asset. It was a revolution. It was chaos. It was an opportunity. And while most people were still trying to figure out whether it was real or a passing fad, Belmar saw what it really was: a blank check for those willing to play the game without rules. He rode the wave to perfection. While governments hesitated, while banks scoffed, while the media laughed, Belmar was stacking digital gold, leveraging every market movement to his advantage. He wasn't just investing, he was exploiting. The volatility that scared others, that was his playground. And in a space where regulation was non-existent and ethics were just a suggestion, the opportunities were limitless. But here's the thing about limitless opportunity: it tempts you to push further, to take bigger risks, to cut corners. Because when money flows this fast, the line between genius and fraud gets thinner than ever. Belmar didn't just make money, he made promises. He didn't want to be seen as just another trader. No, that wasn't enough. He wanted to be a leader, a prophet of digital wealth. So he built a movement. He told people they could escape the 9-to-5 grind, just like he did. He promised a shortcut to financial freedom. A system where the right mindset, the right connections, and a little capital were all you needed. He made you believe that he had cracked the code and that if you followed him, you could too. But let's be real, these stories always have the same structure. At the top, the man selling the dream. In the middle, the lucky few who get in early. At the bottom, the desperate believers, the ones who buy in too late, the ones who didn't realize they're being played until the money is already gone. Belmar wasn't just trading Bitcoin, he was trading hope. And hope is a dangerous currency. He was in it to win, and for a while he did. But as history has shown time and time again, when you play the game at this level, the house always comes to collect. The deeper you dig, the more you find familiar patterns. Belmar wasn't just teaching financial strategies, he was selling a lifestyle. Fast cars, private jets, exotic locations, it was the same playback that internet entrepreneurs had used for years. He wasn't alone in this. Other self-made millionaires had followed the same formula. Step 1. Show extravagant wealth to prove your methods work. Step 2. Offer mentorship or an exclusive club that teaches those methods. Step 3. Keep the advice vague enough that success always feels just out of reach. It was the ultimate paradox. If everyone could become rich using the same formula, why weren't there more verifiable success stories? The Capital Club was sold as a gateway to financial freedom, an exclusive group where ambitious people could learn to create wealth. But as more members shared their experiences, a pattern emerged. Some found value in networking, but others walked away feeling like they had paid a premium for advice they could have found in a well-written Twitter thread. Belmar's messaging was also cryptic at times. He preached concepts like leveraging the system and hacking the matrix, but the specifics remained elusive. It was motivational, sure, but was it actionable? Sound advice, right? The internet wasn't satisfied with vague promises, they wanted proof. This is where things get tricky. Belmar claimed to have built multiple successful businesses, yet concrete evidence of these ventures was scarce. Unlike traditional entrepreneurs, who have public business records, testimonials, and long-standing products, much of his success was tied to unverifiable digital ventures, dropshipping, crypto, and social media. This raised serious questions. If he had built multiple million-dollar businesses, why weren't they widely recognized? Were his main sources of income actual businesses or selling business advice? If the Capital Club was so effective, why weren't more of its members making headlines? The skepticism grew and people started comparing him to past online gurus who had promised financial freedom but left their followers with little more than motivation and an empty wallet. The numbers were perfect, almost too perfect. $888 for a shortcut to wealth. It wasn't $899, it wasn't $1,000, it was $888. A number dripping with psychological precision. It looked mystical, elusive, like it belonged to some secret financial order where only the chosen ones had access. Luke Belmar wasn't just selling a course, he was selling transformation. The pitch was simple. Escape the grind, the rat race, learn the secrets of wealth creation, get access to an elusive network of winners, and all for a small investment of $888. But here's the problem. There were no secrets. The moment people got inside, reality hit like a freight train. What they found wasn't some underground financial roadmap, it was a repackaged hustle culture playbook. Rich people think differently. You've heard this before. He'd say, money is a game. You need to learn the rules. No kidding. Take risks, invest in yourself, surround yourself with winners. Groundbreaking. Where have we heard that one before? People were expecting the keys to financial kingdom. Instead, they got a PowerPoint presentation on mindset. What made it worse? All this information was already free. You could find it in a $10 book on Amazon, in YouTube videos, in blog posts written by actual experts with credentials. But Belmar wasn't selling knowledge, he was selling perception. The real product? you. Here's the brutal truth. The people who bought Belmar's course were the product. They weren't paying for education, they were paying to be part of the club. They weren't buying secrets, they were buying a sense of exclusivity. They weren't getting life-changing strategies, they were getting the illusion of being in on something big. Because that's how these things always work. Think about it. If the course actually contained life-changing financial secrets, why would Belmar sell it for $888 instead of using the information himself to make billions? Because the real business wasn't in making people rich. The real business was making people think they were on the verge of being rich. And that's a billion-dollar industry. I can tell you that for free. Belmar understood his audience better than they understood themselves. They were desperate for a change. They were sick of being broke. They wanted to believe there was a shortcut. And most importantly, they were willing to pay for the feeling of progress, even if that progress was an illusion. That's why he didn't sell knowledge, he sold momentum. The moment you paid $888, you felt like you had already taken a step towards success. The moment you joined the group, you felt like you were already in the winner's circle. The moment you called yourself an entrepreneur, you felt like you already made it. But here's the catch. Feeling rich isn't the same as being rich. And when the dust settled, when the motivational high wore off, when people realized they were just another customer in the machine, the questions started. Wait, what did I actually learn? How is this different from all the free advice online? Why do I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing? Call it a red pill moment, because the truth was simple. There was no hidden knowledge, no secret formula, just a well-packaged hustle that preyed on the same thing every scam preys on: hope. And when people finally realized that, the empire started to crack. Doubt started as whispers, but the internet doesn't keep secrets for long. Soon, YouTubers were making exposed videos, Twitter threads were dissecting his claims, and entire Reddit communities were dedicated to pulling apart his wealth-building strategies. As a crack in his empire started to show, Luke Belmar did what every self-proclaimed digital mogul does when the illusion of legitimacy begins to fade. He doubled down on image. Gone was the quiet, calculated hustler. In his place, a new Luke emerged, one that spoke in sound bites, flexed a jet-set lifestyle, and most notably, started cozying up to the Tate brothers. It was a strategic evolution, a way to solidify himself as part of the elite manosphere brotherhood of modern entrepreneurs. Here's what bro studied to sit down with Tristan Tate. And what better way to sell that image than by lighting up a fat Cuban cigar, talking about the Matrix, and sitting in rooms that scream power. You'd be forgiven to think whiskey is the only thing Luke learned from the Tates, but it's no secret that Andrew Tate built Hustlers University as the ultimate digital money-making pipeline. A low-cost, high-volume subscription model designed to keep the cash flowing while making its members feel like they were part of an exclusive financial revolution. And Belmar took notes. The marketing, the exclusivity, the aggressive us versus them rhetoric, it all followed the Tate blueprint. Hustlers University taught you how to escape the matrix. Belmar taught you how to escape the financial system. Tate made you believe money was a game you were losing. Belmar told you the elite were rigging it against you. Hustlers University thrived on community-based loyalty, where members defended the brand like a religion. Belmar replicated the same model, making sure his followers felt like they were part of an untouchable moment. The key difference: Tate positioned himself as a warrior against the system, while Belmar played the wise, quiet billionaire, a man who had already won the game. and was now revealing the hidden financial codes. It was all psychology, and the audience, they got hooked. Nothing screams powerful, untouchable businessman like a cigar. It wasn't just a prop, it was a calculated symbol, a direct association with billionaire culture, where men don't just make money, they control it. The more Luke was seen puffing away in luxury hotels, sitting across from men of power and dressing the part, the more his followers believed in his wealth. Even if the business model was just Hustlers University with a different coat of paint. But there was one problem. When you spend too much time cosplaying as a mogul, eventually people start asking the real questions. And once they did, Luke Belmar's perfectly crafted persona began to collapse under its own weight. And the rumors got deeper. Luke mentions that he comes to America with basically nothing, but he conveniently left out the fact that his grandfather is filthy rich with millions of dollars in the bag and probably helped out his grandson. Details of Luke's family, his real family, have largely been wiped off the internet. But here's what we know. Luke's brother was also in the United States, pursuing a modeling career, and gave a few interviews that Luke paid people off to take them down. That detail is now censored, or so we thought. A woman who interviewed Luke's brother refused to delete the video. And what did Luke do? He threatened to delete her entire accounts from social media. Her entire online presence will be snapped out of existence. Can you believe that? She insisted, and guess what? He did just that. Belmar wasn't just a successful entrepreneur anymore, he was now a subject of controversy. His empire, built on the foundation of exclusivity and financial wisdom, was starting to show cracks. And as history has proven time and time again, once the internet turns on you, the fall comes fast. For every glowing testimonial about the Capital Club, there were others who left feeling underwhelmed. Some member claimed they had paid hundreds or even thousands of dollars expecting game-changing insights, only to receive generic business advice and networking opportunities that didn't live up to the hype. The internet's investigative communities took notice. Reddit threads and YouTube deep dives started analyzing his claims. People began to question how much of his wealth came from successful businesses versus how much came from selling the idea success. Others pointed out how his strategies, dropshipping, crypto investing, and networking were all high risk and heavily dependent on market trends. Dropshipping had already become an oversaturated industry with profit margins shrinking. Crypto was notoriously volatile, with many of the next big opportunities turning into massive losses for late investors. The more people dug, the more the legend of Luke Belmar seemed to lose its shine. Once a few people started calling something a scam, it doesn't take long for that sentiment to snowball, especially on platforms like Twitter and YouTube. Some critics labeled the Capital Club as a glorified mastermind group, where people paid for access to networking but received little practical knowledge they couldn't find for free. Others pointed to the classical guru playbook: flaunt wealth and success, claim to have cracked the system, offer exclusive access for a price, and keep details vague enough to maintain the allure of secrecy. People started connecting the dots and comparing his methods to other hustle culture figures like Tai Lopez and Grant Cardone, where fortunes were built as much on selling business knowledge as on actual business ventures. The sentiment shifted from admiration to suspicion. Instead of seeing him as a financial genius, some started viewing him as another internet marketer, repackaging common sense financial strategies. As the backlash grew, so did the pressure on Belmar. He faced increasing criticism from former fans, skeptical influencers, and financial content creators who dissected his advice. Some accused him of leveraging FOMO, fear of missing out, to sell overpriced business mentorships. Others questioned why his secrets weren't producing widespread success stories among his followers. Eventually, the momentum of skepticism became too strong to ignore. His influence started to wane, and hype around the Capital Club faded. While he maintained a loyal base of supporters, the broader internet had moved on. The same platforms that once amplified his message, YouTube, Twitter, Reddit, were now filled with content breaking down why his strategies weren't as revolutionary as they seemed. His name became a subject of debate rather than a symbol of success. The aura of untouchable success has faded. The internet moved on to the next trend, the next guru, and the next secret to success. Belmar's legacy now sits in the middle ground. Some see him as a brilliant entrepreneur, while others view him as just another self-marketer who played the internet game well until the internet played him back. So, was Luke Belmar a visionary who figured out the game before the rest, or just another digital age marketer who thrived off the hype? The truth likely lies somewhere in between. He undeniably made money. He definitely had knowledge. But in a world where anyone can claim to be a self-made millionaire, the burden of proof is heavy, because at the end of the day, the internet never forgets. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more hidden insights. Stay tuned.